Today, I'm going to recap a 2013 action comedy film called Secretly Greatly. The film begins with Ree-won, a North Korean male top agent with the rank of lieutenant. Ree-won is a member of the 5446 Corps, a group of spies who have been groomed from an early age to become tough top agents. Colonel Kim Ta-won, Ree-won's superior, assigns him a mission to become a spy in South Korea. Before completing his mission, the colonel stated that they would meet again, but with two options, as brothers or as enemies. Ree-won, who is now disguised as a village idiot named Bang Dong-gu, has adapted and gotten used to his life in South Korea 2 years later. Dong-gu, who disguises himself as an idiot, is frequently mocked and bullied by the boys in his neighborhood. Dong-gu, on the other hand, doesn't mind because it's a disguise. To survive in South Korea, Dong-gu works as a grocery store keeper for an elderly woman named Mrs. Jeon. He not only works there, but he also lives in a small room above the supermarket. Dong-gu is pleased to be working there, despite the low pay, because he can set aside a portion of his earnings for savings, which he intends to give to his mother when he returns to North Korea. Dong-gu meets many people during his stay, one of whom is Yoo-ran, an office worker who becomes his crush. Yoo-jun, Yoo-ran's younger brother, scolds Dong-gu whenever he attempts to greet and approach her. Dong-gu always does things haphazardly and pretends to be asleep while guarding the shop to perfect his disguise. In reality, he is only pretending and keeps a record of anyone who has shoplifted at the store, including the bullies. Soon after, a lovely lady named Ran entered the shop and borrowed money to buy a box of cigarettes. Dong-gu befriends a courier named Seo Sang-gu, who is in his 40s. Sang-gu is revealed to be a top North Korean agent who has been living and conducting undercover missions in South Korea for the past 16 years. Dong-gu and Sang-gu are eagerly awaiting orders from their superiors to return to North Korea because they both miss their families, especially Dong-gu, who misses his mother. Dong-gu must follow a disguise code in order to convince those around him that he is an idiot. Urinate in public every 2 months and defecate in public every 6 months. However, Dong-gu's disguise was caught by Yoo-ran, who immediately felt ill-feeling to see Dong-gu and tried to avoid him whenever they passed on the street. Knowing that Dong-gu is always in awe of Yoo-ran's beauty, Yoo-jun becomes irritated because he believes Dong-gu wants to bother his sister. When Mrs. Jeon's son, Do-seok, sees Dong-gu, who is frequently bullied by Yoo-jun, he feels sorry for him and teaches him a little martial arts so that he can defend himself if someone beats him. Soon after, Sang-gu arrives and informs Dong-gu that his mother has died. Dong-gu is shocked and devastated by the news, but he tries to be patient and hopes to visit his mother's grave in North Korea soon. Dong-gu then resumes his activities and goes about his business as usual. Dong-gu assists Do-seok in delivering some sacks of rice and groceries to Ran's boarding house, where he discovers a new occupant of the boarding room, namely a blonde-haired youth who rarely leaves the room and gets along with other boarding house residents. Dong-gu is immediately suspicious and raises his guard because he believes the blonde-haired youth is a North Korean top agent on the same mission as him. That night, while Dong-gu was exercising, the blonde-haired youth approached him and attacked him. They fight for a while before the young man reveals himself to be Ha-rang, one of the top agents who are members of the 5446 Corps, just like him. Ha-rang joins Dong-gu on his mission and disguises himself as Kim Min-soo, a singer wannabe. However, he does not inform Dong-gu of his mission. Ha-rang leaves the Dong-gu residence after a brief conversation. Dong-gu then secretly follows Ha-rang, who has come to the venue to audition to be a musician. Ha-rang turns out to be auditioning for the music, but he fails because he isn't very good at playing an instrument. Dong-gu finally learns about Ha-rang's mission and believes that their superior will send another agent from the 5446 Corps soon for whatever reason. However, Dong-gu is immediately irritated because, despite carrying out his undercover mission in South Korea, he has never carried out a real mission and has only been an idiot for the past 2 years. The 5446 Corps apparently received opposition from several important officials and a professor in North Korea because it was deemed too dangerous, so the secret agents who joined there did not have a clear mission since their recruitment. Sang-gu comes to Dong-gu one day and asks for assistance. Sang-gu, it turns out, intends to return to North Korea and borrow one of Dong-gu's weapons. Dong-gu discovers, after lending him his gun, that Sang-gu intends to defect from his country because the North Korean government arrested his family while they were attempting to flee to China. When Dong-gu hears this, he advises Sang-gu to commit suicide because they must obey orders from their superiors and must not betray their homeland. When Sang-gu is about to commit suicide by shooting himself, it is discovered that the gun Dong-gu gave him is an empty gun with no bullets. Dong-gu then pushes Sang-gu up against the wall, telling him to hold on and fight harder so that they can return to their homeland and be reunited with their families. A male agent from the 5446 Corps, on the other hand, is seen on a mission to assassinate a high-ranking South Korean official. After the male agent completed his mission, relations between North and South Korea became tense and tensions between the two countries arose. That night, while Dong-gu was writing a letter, a young man entered his home and pointed a gun at him. The young man turned out to be an agent who had murdered a high-ranking South Korean official earlier this afternoon. He came to see Dong-gu on purpose to remind him of his mission and to ask him not to forget his true identity. Following that, the agent fled the scene. But because the young man was running so fast, Dong-gu was unable to catch up with him, and he eventually managed to flee. Dong-gu meets a drunk Ran after losing track of the agent. While accompanying Ran, he discovers that Ran had a child when she was 18 years old. Her parents, however, sent her child to the United States for adoption because she was still too young. On his way home, Dong-gu runs into the agent Hae-jin, who turns out to be his junior in the 5446 Corps. Hae-jin then reveals that he received the same mission as Dong-gu and Hae-rang, and came to see Dong-gu on purpose because he missed him, his senior and mentor, who helped him reach the top male agent position, who was quite talented. After telling him this, Hae-jin departs, leaving Dong-gu perplexed as to why their superior dispatched two agents at the same time. Dong-gu later meets Hae-jin while disguised as a high school student and befriends Yoo-jun. Dong-gu then discovers that Sang-gu has vanished and believes that Hae-jin has murdered him. Hae-jin, on the other hand, denies the accusations and tells Dong-gu that he was assigned to replace Sang-gu but was not ordered to murder him. When Dong-gu and Hae-jin talk, they notice Yoo-ran being bullied by her boss, who forces her to marry him. Dong-gu then requests that Hae-jin assist Yoo-ran, but Yoo-jun appeared out of nowhere and assisted his sister. Dong-gu will not abandon Yoo-ran's boss because the man has threatened to fire Yoo-ran. Dong-gu then threatens the man with doing something embarrassing while filming it and tells him that if he bothers Yoo-ran again or intends to fire her, he will share the video footage. Dong-gu witnesses Mrs. John getting into an argument with some thugs who force her to sell the liquor products they supply the next day. Mrs. John, on the other hand, is hesitant to sell the product, so they disagree. Dong-gu then assists Mrs. John in acting as if she is falling down the stairs and pushes the thugs away, saving Mrs. John from the shards of glass before injuring her head. Mrs. John forbids Dong-gu from fighting with them. That night, Dong-gu and Hae-jin go to the thugs' headquarters with the intention of avenging Mrs. John. However, Do-seok was already there and had been severely beaten by the thugs for attempting to defend his mother. Dong-gu then requests that Hae-jin attack the thugs while he assists Do-seok. With his abilities as a top agent, Hae-jin can easily defeat all of the thugs. Dong-gu then takes Do-seok and assists him. Meanwhile, Moo-hyuk, the founder of the 5446 Corps, requests that Taiwan disband the special forces and orders his agents to return to North Korea. Moo-hyuk, a traitor to the country, intends to execute the agents once they return to North Korea. Taiwan, on the other hand, suggests ordering the agents to kill themselves so that the elite soldiers can die honorably and be remembered as heroes. Taiwan then insists on personally executing the top agents who disobey the order and ensuring that no trace of them remains. Following that, Dong-gu, Hae-rang, and Hae-jin received simultaneous orders to commit suicide from their superiors. Dong-gu, on the other hand, refuses to comply with the order until the North Korean government guarantees the safety and well-being of his family. Despite this, Hae-jin regards Dong-gu as a deserter for disobeying their superior's orders and points a gun at him, intending to kill him. Hae-rang, on the other hand, appears to be siding with Dong-gu and attacks Hae-jin in order to assist Dong-gu. Hae-jin rushed away from there because he was completely overwhelmed by Hae-rang, his senior. But then Dong-gu chases after Hae-jin and tries to explain his intentions, not because he wants to defy orders, but to provide reassurance to their family. Hae-jin finally comprehends Dong-gu's intentions in defiance of their superior's orders. Meanwhile, the team leader of the National Intelligence Service, NIS, Soo-hyuk, discovers tracking devices embedded in the bodies of North Korean agents who committed suicide in South Korea. Soo-hyuk then orders his troops to find the remaining North Korean agents, who turn out to be only 3 people: Dong-gu, Hae-rang, and Hae-jin. Soo-hyuk turns out to be attempting to save the 3 young men from wasting their lives by committing suicide. When Hae-jin was about to return home, he was trailed by several members of the elite South Korean troops that Soo-hyuk had ordered. Despite facing them alone, he can easily defeat them all and flee. Soon after, Soo-hyuk tracked down Dong-gu and asked him to surrender and defect to South Korea, promising that he would receive full protection from South Korea before their colonel arrived and executed them. Dong-gu, on the other hand, declines Soo-hyuk's offer. After being rejected, Soo-hyuk resorts to pointing a gun at Dong-gu, forcing him to surrender. Soon after, Hae-jin appears, intending to assist Dong-gu. Soo-hyuk finally decides to flee after realizing he cannot face one of North Korea's top agents. Hae-jin then pursues him, but he is eventually apprehended by Soo-hyuk and his squad. Soo-hyuk then slashes at Hae-jin's body, removing the tracking device implanted in his body and showing it to him. Soo-hyuk then claims that the tracking device will inform the North Korean government of the location of the top agents, as well as whether they are still alive or dead. After learning this, Hae-jin realizes that the North Korean government has always been keeping an eye on him. Hae-jin is then taken to NIS headquarters to be interrogated. Dong-gu goes to a barbershop the next day to change his appearance. After that, he met Mrs. Jeon and expressed his desire to resign from his job and say goodbye to her, citing the desire to visit his family in the village as an excuse. Mrs. Jeon plans to donate all of her savings to Dong-gu out of sympathy. Dong-gu, on the other hand, refuses. When Dong-gu meets Yoo-ran, he bids her farewell and promises that Yoo-jun will always protect her. When Yoo-jun arrives, Dong-gu advises him to do well in school so that he can graduate and attend college while caring for his sister. Dong-gu then met Ran and gave her all of his savings so she could meet her child in the United States, while also providing the address where her child lives in the United States. Everyone is taken aback by Dong-gu's transformation from an idiotic young man to a wise and serious individual. Dong-gu, as a top agent, is actually a genius who knows many foreign languages and can read people's personalities through their facial expressions. Dong-gu was about to leave when he was attacked by Soo-hyuk's henchmen. He did, however, manage to paralyze them. Dong-gu then speaks with Soo-hyuk and discovers the tracking device. Dong-gu then requests that Soo-hyuk protect and keep Hae-jin alive. Soo-hyuk, on the other hand, learns that Ta-won has arrived in South Korea and plans to execute Hae-rang and Dong-gu. As a result, he directed his troops to prepare for and protect Hae-rang and Dong-gu. Knowing that Ta-won is on his way to execute them, Hae-jin begs Soo-hyuk to join his army in order to assist Dong-gu and Hae-rang. Dong-gu and Ta-won finally meet in an empty building, where Ta-won believes Dong-gu has betrayed him by refusing to obey his orders. Dong-gu, on the other hand, insists on staying alive until the North Korean government guarantees the safety and well-being of his family, which Ta-won refuses because Dong-gu has no right to make any deals. Dong-gu then engages in a fight with one of Ta-won's henchmen, which he easily defeats. When Dong-gu is about to kill Ta-won, he stands up and injures Dong-gu. They fight again until Dong-gu falls from an upstairs window and meets 2 boys who bullied him a lot when he was still pretending to be an idiot. Dong-gu rushes to save the two boys, assisted by Ha-rang. After that, he and Ha-rang rush to an abandoned building to meet Sang-gu. They are, however, astounded to learn that Sang-gu is one of those who opposes the formation of the 5446 Corps and intends to eliminate all remaining elite North Korean troops. Dong-gu and Ha-rang immediately engage in a brawl with Sang-gu and his henchmen. Taiwan and his henchmen, on the other hand, arrive and rush in to finish off Dong-gu and Ha-rang, while Soo-hyuk and his squad must contend with Sang-gu and Taiwan's henchmen, who shoot them from inside the building. Hae-jin then assists by defeating one of Taewon's snipers and succeeding in overthrowing the other henchman, allowing Soo-hyuk and his troops to enter the building safely. Meanwhile, Ha-rang climbs to the top of the building to save the injured Dong-gu, followed by Taewon and his henchmen and Soo-hyuk and his squad. Taewon then detonates a grenade to obstruct Soo-hyuk and his team. On the rooftop, Ha-rang and Dong-gu fight Taewon's henchmen once more. Following that, Dong-gu and Taewon engaged in a fierce duel because they were both the most powerful top agents. Dong-gu, on the other hand, eventually fell and had to admit his superior's greatness. Simultaneously, Soo-hyuk and his elite squad arrive on the rooftop, one of whom is Hae-jin in disguise. Hae-jin then switched sides, siding with Taewon. Knowing that all of the top agents from the 5446 Corps have been eliminated, Taewon pulls out a grenade, intending to blow himself up along with them all so that they can die with honor. However, Ha-rang quickly pushed Taewon's body away, and the two of them, along with the exploding grenade, fell from the building's roof. Dong-gu inadvertently discovers Mrs. Jun's passbook in his pocket, instantly feeling sad and crying in frustration as he recalls all the kindness of Mrs. Jun and Do-seok, who always care for him and treat him like family. Dong-gu yelled as he expressed his desire to return to Mrs. Jun's house and rejoin them. An enraged Hae-jin then hits Dong-gu, attempting to make him realize their true identity. Soo-hyuk then tries to persuade Hae-jin and Dong-gu to give up so they can return to their own lives and live in South Korea forever. However, because Hae-jin would rather die than live as a defector, Soo-hyuk and his troops are forced to execute him. When Dong-gu notices this, he rushes to protect Hae-jin by hugging him, and they both fall off the roof like Ha-rang and their colonel. Dong-gu closes his eyes with a happy smile as he recalls the moments he shared with Ha-rang and Hae-jin while they were still on an undercover mission at Mrs. Jun's residence.